Yo, are we live? We're live. All right, 1 2 1 2. It's your boy Carcino here, saying what's up once again. Let's get into it. Now, Brent Brown, I'm not the one to defend this man because I'm not somebody who believes he was a great head coach. Period. I think he's a decent coach, but he's not a coach that's going to get you to where you're trying to go. Now, I understand that he was in a bad position. He was in a very bad spot. He was in a spot in which he had to endure a player who was ungrateful and deal with a situation he didn't want to put himself in or feel like this is where he should be. You know? Now, when you start thinking about where people uniquely should be, you start saying to yourself, man, things are not where they're supposed to be. Things are not in the direction it should be. As a team, you see things falling apart. You see teams going in different directions. You see a lot of different elements and changes as far as personnel and moving players coming in and out of a team. Now, word on, they call word around the campfire is that this was happening on the team. And because this was happening on the team in the format it created such a great distance between the teams that other people were just done. They couldn't even function. They were like, you know what? This this riffing has got to stop. But this happened last season when they had Jimmy Butler. Jimmy thought, okay, wait a minute. We're not going to win this way. But I just got here. I don't want to create any problems. I don't want to cause any waves. So he's trying to, and everybody else is talking to Jimmy about it. So Jimmy Butler's like, I don't really think I should say something to the coach because me and him don't really have that rapport. You guys have been here for years. Y'all should tell him how y'all feel. It's not really my place, but they all wanted Jimmy to do it. So Jimmy was the one to bring all of this to the coach. And of course, they looked at Jimmy as if he was a problem. JJ Redick felt the same way. There's a lot of other people there. And at the end of the season, they got rid of JJ Redick and Jimmy Butler. And Ben didn't really get along with him because what they felt is that the ball shouldn't be in Ben Simmons' hands all the time. You can't win that way. And what Ben Simmons is doing like he don't believe it because you've seen LeBron James do the same thing and win that way. So when you see another player come in and do the same tactic, and they're successful with it, it's hard to say, hey, it's not going to work. How can you tell them that now? Now, we're looking at a situation which there are so many people who don't have the right ingenuity. They don't have the right. Somebody just sent me an email that I have to look at. They don't have the right ingenuity. They don't have the right qualifications to even be in the same category as some of these other players to even make these type of decisions. But when you look at the situation, you look and say, hey, they're right. Ben Simmons does not play off the ball very well. He doesn't. And the fact that he tries like to defend for his size to be able to do what he does is rather unique. So that was it was quite unusual at the time for him to have that size and athleticism, and he can get to the basket really quick. But this is not going to get your team to the next level, especially when you're not trying to learn how to shoot. So Brent Brown knew what the problem was, but he was like, let me handle it type of person, like he went and he was to the letter. He was like, look, I'm going to approach Ben and do it the right way before the team started to turn on him. They had a game in Milwaukee last season in which after the game against the Bucks in the locker room, Brent Brown and Ben Simmons, he kind of told him, Ben, I'm going to need you. And he told him at halftime, he said, Ben, I'm going to need you this half. Ben Simmons shut down for the entire half. It just was like, and he felt that the coach singled him out by him just asking, like, hey, Ben, I'm going to really need you this half. He felt he was singled out, and that was the only thing Brent Brown ever said. And he was having to report to the team about singling out Ben Simmons. And he's like, what? I'm a coach. I'm telling my player I'm going to need you in the second half. Am I not allowed to say that? So they had to handle Ben Simmons with kid gloves. And this is only going to infuriate the rest of the team. And because he challenged Ben Simmons to shoot the ball, they wanted Brent Brown gone. The Sixers really liked Brent Brown and didn't want to get rid of him. And it was time to make a move there with the coach because they're blaming him for the situation that really it's the organization that's making the decisions. And they basically, the last season, they already made their mind up that they were moving on from Brent Brown. And he knew it too. So yeah, well, the situations always change when it's about a player that people care about. But the word around the campfire is he's the one that really pulled the plug to get him fired. You believe that? Sounds very believable, don't it? Now, for me, it's a little different. Brent Brown in a practice. They telling me I gotta pay taxes on something? The heck, man? Okay. Anyway, gotta pay taxes. Gotta pay taxes. Now, everybody that you know in that situation would probably mess up and do a lot of stuff, but because he got him fired, or people feel Ben Simmons pulled the trigger to get him removed, the wheels was in motion to go ahead and bring in somebody else after last season. But it's all based on the thin skin of Ben Simmons. All he does is go and complain to ownership each and every time. It has never changed. It's never going to change. And I don't know if another coach can get him to do anything. So Mike D'Antoni was supposed to be the new coach for the Brooklyn Nets, right? And it's crazy because they changed direction. His contract was not going to be renewed for the Houston Rockets. He knew that. Going into the season, there was no discussions on an extension for Mike D'Antoni. They would have had to win the NBA championship in order for Mike D'Antoni to come back, which wasn't going to happen. Now, a lot of people thought, well, Mike D'Antoni's going to get the Sixers job, and then he's like, nah, he ain't going to get the Sixers job. Him and Ben Simmons, that's not going to work. But they was like, oh, Ben Simmons would love, that up and down offense of Mike D'Antoni. So they thought he would be a perfect fit. But the Jack Vaughn situation, the way Jack Vaughn was doing with the Brooklyn Nets, it was turning into a situation where white coaches are getting a certain leeway to negotiate for jobs behind the scenes, and then as soon as the season over, boom, they got a coaching job somewhere else. And the climate that things are in right now, that's not gonna look good. And they were getting ready to announce Mike D'Antoni as the new coach of the Brooklyn Nets. But things went wrong. Things went rogue one. See, what Mike D'Antoni did was nothing at all. It was the politics that got him in trouble. And they were ready to announce him as the coach of the Brooklyn Nets. They had to pivot and hold off on that because they knew if they announced Mike D'Antoni as the head coach, and how he went from Houston to Brooklyn and replaced another black player, without really going through a interview process or anything else. They were getting ready to announce him the coach. It was starting an uproar on social media before he was even announced. Yep, you get the truth here. Don't forget to hit the like button, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe to the page. So, the talk was he was going to take the Indiana Pacers job for Mike D'Antoni. That changed direction so quick. They were like, can't do that. Can't do that. The Indiana Pacers had to go in another direction. And remember, Mike D'Antoni he already had the job, but him replacing a black coach who was just fired, and it seemed like right away they went and got Mike D'Antoni. It just didn't look good for Indiana to do that. And they bolted. They got scared and panicked. The Brooklyn Nets wanted to go in a different direction. Mike D'Antoni playing with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They were looking into that situation because they both liked, D'Antoni's system, and they felt like those two would respond to his leadership. But when all of these things were going down with Brooklyn, this was this was perfect. A lot of people believe this was the best way for it to go. Mike D'Antoni was going to sit out a year because the controversy was so great. The controversy was so great on him bouncing from Houston and just going into another job while other black coaches weren't being interviewed, and this whole movement of Black Lives Matter. Now you got a whole different element going on. You got people who are making rash decisions without thinking. And as soon as they hired Steve Nash, it was immediately saying this was a white privilege hire. And Steve Nash came out and said, no, I want to be a part of this change. I want to make all this happen. And then he brings in Mike D'Antoni. Because people's like, he doesn't even have the experience. Jack Vaughn should have had the job. They brought in Steve Nash, who you knew wasn't going to have that type of experience. So who he brings in? His head coach, in which he won the 2 back-to-back MVPs, Mike D'Antoni. Now, they had a very potent offense when he was there. It was just facts. They had a very potent offense. They they were able to do a lot of different things on the Phoenix Suns. But this isn't the Phoenix Suns that they had back in the day. So they got what? Amari Stoudemire. You got the whole Phoenix Suns coaching staff joining the new supposedly diverse, you know, coaching staff, right? They even went and hired a black coach somewhere, just to say, look, a black coach got hired. Please leave us alone. Let us do our, old good old boy system. So that's what you're faced with. So you looking at the coaching carousel. Ben Simmons allegedly got Brent Brown fired, and Mike D'Antoni was supposed to be the coach of the Brooklyn Nets. The Indiana Pacers wanted him, and the Brooklyn Nets. The Pacers' job was all but done, and then they pulled the trigger away once the Brooklyn Nets decided and made that decision. The Brooklyn Nets job was available, and because of the controversy, he was willing to sit out. He didn't want to be in the midst of controversy, so Mike D'Antoni was going to sit out a whole year and come back and get a coaching job. He's going to wait till all this stuff died out. So they hired Steve Nash to be the face. But meanwhile, the coaching staff would be Mike D'Antoni's system. So they basically hired Mike D'Antoni to be the coach. They just got him listed as the assistant coach. Yep. The politics of the NBA. So don't forget to show some support to the page whenever you can. It's up to you. We appreciate all the love and support. Our Cash App is Carceno, Karceno. Hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And we shall return. Thanking you.